All right, here we go. It's Tuesday night, 6 p.m. We got a couple folks on the line, so it could be a short one. No major updates on the CRC because there hasn't been any meetings. They canceled the one that they were supposed to have last week. So we generally take this time to discuss, any questions that folks might have. This is a free weekly Q&A, and hopefully we can answer, any questions that y'all might have. So I don't have any questions. We got some more folks signing on. Welcome. We'll take a few more moments to give folks opportunity to sign on and start going into the questions section on the right there. If you open up your menu, you should be able to see questions. This is an opportunity to ask and get answers to questions pertaining to the the New Jersey law, as well as any opportunities that might exist within that. Eli Scheiman is a partner of Porzio, Bromberg Newman, and an excellent attorney in the state of New Jersey, and has operated in other states and has wins. And we'd like to work with Eli because he keeps a really good track on everything regarding the law, and is, like I said, an excellent attorney. So we can answer a couple of things. We can answer things about the law. We can answer things about logistics and some operational stuff. But most of all, obviously everything that we're going to talk about is within the purview of the law. As we know it, there's still so much more to be known, and we're all waiting on that.
So, no major updates.
Yeah.
We're in the quiet period, right? It's kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, right.
This is a time to be focusing on your property, your team building, your corporate structure, your plan, and then we'll just change everything up once the regs come in and completely change the paradigm. But there are things you can and should be doing right now in the calm before the storm that don't really require the regs at all, which is really, your property. And I think we know enough about corporate structure at this point to kind of piece that together, so do that now, you'll have less to do later.
So what do you mean corporate structure? What do you mean by corporate structure? Say more.
Corporate structure in the sense that depending on, hopefully what licenses you're going for at this point. Maybe not. It's not critical that you do, but hopefully you have an idea and you got those different models that you need to slot in, right? So if you're going to be doing the conditional license, that there are certain income restrictions for the applicants there. So you need to be thinking about that in terms of your ownership table. For the micro business license, I think most people are probably familiar with that, but the 51% in the host or neighboring municipality, however you're going to try to piece that together, you need to be thinking about that in terms of your corporate structure. No matter what, you need one significantly involved person in your corporate structure. So that stuff we know. A lot of people probably are familiar with the concept of putting in for a minority or women-owned or disabled veteran-owned business certification, right? So those are going to have their own requirements in terms of ownership, right? Whatever category you're going to go in, you're going to need 51% of that category. So you have to think about how that works with the other stuff that we were just talking about, micro business licenses or the conditional licenses. That kind of stuff, for the most part right now, you can play with and have a pretty good idea of what that's going to look like with or without the regs. So if it were me sitting on your side of the fence, that's the stuff I'd be focusing on right now.
And, I was having a conversation today about, just partnership. And, people are trying to figure out who and how to partner. And it's the theme, right? Everybody's trying to create teams now. And so the the best consideration that anybody can have in a partnership, there's a few considerations. So number one is that it's a real partnership, that the person who's going to be owning a significant part of your company is actually working the company, and that they're benefiting in the ways that, someone who's in that position should benefit. You don't want to bring on someone because of their background and just to create an appearance of a partnership. That's not going to fly, and it's not moral or ethical, I think, but I don't want to stand on any high ground here. But it's certainly, something that I constantly advise all of our clients, look for real live partnership, and don't think that you're going to be able to bring somebody's expertise on board, and that, you're going to get a license and that they won't need to, be in charge of anything. That's not, I don't think it's going to fly, and it generally doesn't fly. You have to have, folks in those positions, that have high qualifications. So the qualifications, if you were checking off a box, in a report, or signing your name to a report that was going to a state agency, whether it was OSHA or if it's going to a federal agency like FINRA or the DEA, for vault stuff, or a liquor license authority, folks that have control over controlled substances, a high level, high value, net worths. If you're dealing with commodities and you have a Series 6 or 7, and you're transacting commissions and you're having to report to FINRA or the SEC, things like that. If you're looking for someone with that kind of regulated background, don't be afraid to look around in your family and your friends group, people that you know and trust, and I think you might, find, a qualified, partner within your immediate networks. And if you don't, you might have to consider going through a recruitment agency, and certain recruitment agencies operate on national, international levels, and certain recruitment agencies have the ability to connect, experienced, qualified candidates to, a partnership, not just an employment, but partnership. So there's a hierarchy and of how that's scored, and it starts with the ownership. You're going to get most preference and points for that experience in your ownership, and then it subsequently should drop if you're using experience within your employee base, your directors base, things like that. So, finding a good partner that has highly regulated industry experience is super critical. The real estate component is super critical, especially for the annuals. There is for the folks out there that are considering conditional licenses, only because we can't say affirmatively, that maybe real estate won't be included in that. We continue to advise that folks, continue to work with your real estate and within your community to see if you can lock something down until we are told otherwise. Although it is a possibility, that we are advocating for, and others in the state are advocating for, it's still not determined yet. So keep out there, look for real estate, find out what's going on in your local community. Try not to secure real estate and put any money down if possible until there's zoning that says, your property is going to be zoned for that. And then, even at that level, you want to make sure that the town is behind you. So yeah, we got one question right now. By the way, this is a Q&A. This is not like a weekly report, but we do give weekly reports here whenever there is something to give. There was nothing. The CRC didn't meet last week, and we have no new information. You could register to our other Q&As and see new information there, or go to the CRC. They have a frequently asked questions board. So this time is to answer questions from you in the audience. We have 4 people that are watching in today, and so whenever we stop getting questions, we'll just say goodbye, and then we'll get back on next week. So here we go. I need to set up a bank account. Are major banks declined? Any banks in New Jersey who are cannabis friendly? Yes. Ellie, you want to name a few, and you mentioned a couple that I didn't think of last week.
Yeah, I mean, the main one in New Jersey is the one you mentioned, BCB, right? So that's the main one in New Jersey, Bayonne Community Bank. They are cannabis friendly. Their fees tend to be on the higher side as far as I'm concerned, but they will bank you. Valley National Bank, my understanding is they're also now banking cannabis. I have no personal experience with them, but multiple people have told me that. Then outside of New York, outside of New Jersey, there are 2 banks that I'm personally familiar with. East West Bank, which is not based in New Jersey, but can service New Jersey cannabis businesses, as well as Dime Bank. So those are 4 banks that will all bank your cannabis for you.
There you go. Second, and so far the last question. Any question? Do we need to be certified as women-owned minority business before we even get to apply for the license? And also, how long does it take? Is there a revenue limit? I'll take on this one. So we highly recommend you get certified for any status that you can authentically hold, for any minority status, whether you're women-owned, veteran status, or minority-owned company, or all 3. Each of those requirements, each of those statuses have a different requirement for control and ownership of 51% of that person who's described as the certified person. And so if you are, for instance, if you are a brown veteran woman, you get like 3 different certifications for that, right? So, definitely do that before licensing. We don't know for sure if it's going to be a major impact, if any at all, at this point. We have seen in prior rounds that the state has allowed for folks in the program has given points for those certifications. So, I highly recommend it. Ellie, do you disagree, or?
No, I disagree. In the 2019 round, you were able to get full credit for that question. I forget what the points were. I'm just trying to remember it, but it wasn't insignificant. For full certification, you have it. If you could show that you were on the way towards certification, that you could fulfill the requirements at some point in the future, you would get partial credit. Unclear what that is. The biggest issue with this is in 2019, we had the medical expansion bill, which provided that not only was the CRC supposed to have back then, but also supposed to have created this new office. I forget what the name is, but it's basically, for the minority, I forget, but they were going to be in charge of creating this certification process, because one of the challenges with the current New Jersey Treasury Department certification process is that you need to show some revenue. That's the criteria, some revenue. It doesn't need to be a specific amount. I'm not aware of there being a limit per se, but you need to show some revenue in order to get that certification. Very hard to show some revenue pre-licensing, right? I mean, you can get creative, and there are ways to do it. You can sell T-shirts. I mean, you can sell other things to get there, but you got to do it. So this minority office under the CRC was supposed to have created a separate certification process. And I think that's what the intent was, to make it easy for people to do so, specifically for purposes of licensing. But like everything else, that's been delayed 2 years. So it's a gray area. If you can, definitely do it. It takes a while to do it, right? So if you were to start now, you may be able to get that certification if you were to submit today before the licenses drop. But you might as well start the process this way. You can show the CRC something.
Right. CRC monthly meeting got postponed and not rescheduled. That is correct. If I misspoke and said rescheduled. Is there a chance the 821 regulations get pushed? I mean, we were supposed to get the 2019 results, right? And we still haven't gotten those. So, there's no telling. It's possible, but we have, at least from our inside, our contacts that are making advocating in the space are telling us that they believe it's still on track for a very reduced skeletal type of regulatory framework, and so that may be we may see something, but it may not be the whole story.
Yep. My call is 821 happens. I'm hopeful the 2019 licenses are issued in the next week or two, but I do think 821 is going to happen.
Yeah, hope so. Since the industry remains illegal at a federal level, do you anticipate that importing products from neighboring states, thinking New York, will be an option? Until there's a federal law, we will not be seeing interstate. Although I did see some report. I have to look at it. Some ancient law that allowed for it was a report that some professor did at a prestigious university. I'm gonna have to send that over to you, Ellie, and see if there's any credence to it. But basically an old law that they believe they can use in court and would demolish the whole interstate law enforcement.
Is it Rob Mikos? Mikos?
Maybe.
I don't know. There's an organization, I forget what it's called. And Mikos is a law professor who's been kind of advocating with them. The idea is to come up with interstate pacts. So right now there's one between Oregon and California. The governors come together. They form an interstate commerce pact. That alone will not pass muster. The idea is then to either have federal legislation essentially sanction that, or at least have some kind of federal enforcement option. Like the Colt memo, that type of stuff, like guidance, to at least give some credence to that interstate compact. But that interstate compact in and of itself does not get you anywhere. You need that extra step. So it's an interesting idea, and it makes a ton of sense when you're thinking about federal legalization. Just given East Coast, West Coast, production states, consumption states, what it's going to look like once there's federal legalization. Like no one's going to be growing on the East Coast unless you come up with some kind of energy efficient process. Like it just won't make sense. So you can have these interstate compacts and preserve your local state, arrangements that you have right now. But yeah, the answer is no. And I certainly wouldn't talk about that on my application if I'm going to be doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely no. And we just hope and pray for federal legalization so that happens. So that's answered all the questions in our queue so far. I think there will be a lot more questions certainly after the regs come out, and we'll dive into it when they do. We'll be here to answer them. Tomorrow, for the folks that are in the accelerator, tomorrow we have a legal presentation with Eli Scheiman as well. He's going to go through some of the intricacies of the law and things to prepare for. And we'll also, be kind of talking about different strategies within that. So if you're in the program, come holler at us tomorrow, and we'll see you again. So we have, when do the regs come out? Will they be public comment periods?
No.
So that's that, huh?
No, they're emergency regs, so they're in effect for a year, and then after a year, there'll be a notice and comment period in connection with any kind of revisions. But that's the reason the CRC is holding these public meetings where they're letting people go on for 5 hours at a time and ask questions and respond to the questions. It's to kind of work in that public comment period without having it required at this point in time. So no public comment.
Right.
Anything else,
So,
Scott?
I don't see anything else there.
All right.
All right. We'll capture the last half hour. Folks, get some rest, and we'll see you guys next week. And those in the program, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, David.
Take care.
See you.